Welcome to the Blue Collar Millionaire Show. I am your host, Chad Hufford, and this is the podcast where we celebrate the unsung heroes of the working world. Each week, we dive into the incredible stories of honest, hardworking folks who have found financial success through grit, determination, and good old-fashioned elbow grease. So if you're ready to be inspired and learn how to turn your hard work into your own success story, you're in the right place. This is the Blue Collar Millionaire Show.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Blue Collar Millionaire Show. We're doing an episode recap with from your interview with Chris Marchant.
Yep.
And I gotta say, that was gotta be one of the best episodes that we've ever done. As a dad, it was really convicting to hear Chris talk about balance and balance of work, working out, and family. And so anyways, I wanted to touch on a few of those things that we talked about, but also maybe I'm throwing you a curveball a little bit. I think, we talk about finance all the time. I think maybe some people would want to hear some of this from you, because I just hearing that conversation with you and Chris, I'm like, man, I know a lot about this stuff with Chad as well, and some of the things that you've done with your family. But I'd like to hear you talk about a little bit of that balance that you've integrated into your life with your family and work, because I know that you work extremely hard here, and talk a little bit about some of those things.
Well, what was really special about that episode with Chris is I have known him for so long, and I've seen him evolve and develop into the man that he is. He's a stud, and he always has. Like I think jealous of him growing up. He's very athletic, very driven. I was lazy. Like
Is that right?
Yeah. There was a switch that flipped somewhere in my mid-teens. But
wow, see, I would never expect that from you.
I did not choose hard things. I very much looked for the easy path. I was gifted with size. Chris has always been smaller in stature, but very athletic and very good shape. Because I was naturally bigger, and I've told you in the past, but for our audience, I mean, I was this height, 5'10", at 11, 12 years old.
Oh, wow.
So I got away with, in sports, just having the size advantage and not having to work that hard. And it did two things. Number one, it made me lazy. Number two, it made me not want to engage in something that I didn't know I was going to be good at. I didn't want to try something new. But Chris has always been a great example to me. And I shared that story of the mountain and that metaphor of choosing to continue to climb the mountain rather than resting in a comfort zone. And that's been a reminder that I go through still regularly. Cause there's always that call to comfort, to take the easy road. And sometimes I do, I don't always make the right decisions. But that comfort zone is always calling. So anyway, to get back to your question, that's one of the reasons I chose this job is even though I knew the work was going to be very hard, I knew it'd be very fulfilling. I knew that we could help a lot of people. We had an awesome picnic barbecue/party with our clients. Yeah. Over 100 people, just salt of the earth people. And I was just standing there looking like, this is an awesome crowd of individuals.
Yeah.
And being able to help them achieve their goals was incredible. But I have been able to do that. And we've been able to do that. Everybody in this office and still have a good balance. Nobody in this office spends 40 hours here. Everybody works extremely hard. But I had to put constraints on that early on because there's always work to be done.
Sure.
And that's the other thing.
You can be here all the time.
Yep. You can always work on a financial plan. You could always, be researching some funds. You could always be calling another person, another prospect, another client, checking in on this, checking in on that. Oh, what are the new tax laws? What are this? Yeah. There's always something. There's always work to do, but to be able to give yourself permission to be done and then to go home. And I used to work from home. And then even when I finally got an office 10, 12 years ago, worked from home for like 4 or 5 years. Incredibly inefficient looking back at it now.
Is that right?
Oh yeah, it was awful. But I didn't know better. But I would still bring my laptop home, and then I would work after the kids went to bed. We had little kids at the time. So I'd go to the office, come home, and I was there with him. So Chris and I talked about this a little bit on the last episode, that he'd being present. But here's what was happening is I would come home from the office, come out at a decent time, around 5 o'clock, spend several hours with the kids. They go to bed, and I would check email and finish off.
Right.
So knowing that I was going to be doing that, I was still kind of in work mode. I'm thinking about, okay, I've got to email this person back. I've got to figure out how to respond to this. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. And I was distracted. So even I was there, and I'm still on the phone with the kids. It wasn't like I was, trying to not be on a phone and things like that. But I wasn't completely engaged because I had to step back into work chat in a couple of hours. So that was one of the things I've stopped doing.
I struggle with that big time. In fact, it's funny that we bring this up because my wife and I talked about that just a little bit this morning. I have my email on my phone, and I don't know. I think I got a new phone, and my email wasn't on my phone for a little while, and it was really refreshing. And do you have your email on your phone? Do you access it on?
It is on there, and I've made a really good habit of staying off of it.
Okay. Yeah.
But again, it's setting up, going back to what Chris was saying, it's setting up those structures in your life. So he's very disciplined. Mm-hmm. Some people might even call that rigid. But even that rigidness, he talked about having openness, open to experiences, open for his family to need him. But setting up the discipline, the beginning and the end of his day allowed him to have that openness and, not taking the stress from work home and having that moment. He said in his driveway, like literally in his driveway.
That's smart. I think that was a really good idea.
Yeah. I mean, you and I know they deal with some stuff, and it may not even be a work thing. I mean, I'm not saying that's the only frustration in his life or in the lives of our listeners is work, but as a first responder, there's a lot of stressful stuff, really tough calls, dealing with very, very difficult situations, and to be able to give himself that moment, not just the moment to kind of decompress, but again, there's like an emotional line that he then crosses where, okay, now I'm stepping home to be father and husband.
Right. I think that's super important. A lot of times, and I think in today's society, we don't really ever take time for ourselves for a few minutes. I mean, not to turn this into a sermon or anything, but what did Jesus do when he went into the mountains and prayed, right? He took a time for himself over and over again. I think that's just when he was talking about that, I was thinking about that. I think it's an important thing.
Well, Jesus took timeouts. Maybe I need timeouts too.
Yeah, exactly. So, another thing that Chris brought up is the importance of exercise and fitness. Do you work out at all, Chad?
I have.
Have you?
Every now and then. So, I do.
As you could probably tell, the listeners should know I'm being totally facetious. You couldn't cut Chad's bicep with a Ginsu knife, but he's blushing. No, but anyways, do you find fitness is something that helps you at work?
Yeah, Chris and I think, even though he is a phenomenal endurance athlete, I would focus more on the strength, and some of the more explosive based workouts, those types of things. I mean, Chris he's very quick, very fast, very agile, but our training looks different. But I think our non-fitness goals from working out, might sound weird, but our non-fitness goals from working out are very similar. Clearing our minds, centering ourselves, and just doing hard things. I mean, kind of goes back to that mountain as a kid. Like there was no parade at the top of the mountain or anything like that, but it was that sense of accomplishment that I knew I was missing out on.
Right.
When they come back down the mountain, there was a sense of shame or guilt. I don't know exactly what it was. Because they had done something hard and I had chosen to do something easy. And I think it's easy in our lives to get in the habit of choosing the easy path.
Right.
If you're taking the downhill path all the time, the easy path, and you find yourself at the bottom of the valley in your life, there's a reason why. And the more you take that downhill path, the harder the climb is coming out of that. So I think for me, exercise is a very tangible, physical reminder to myself that I'm willing to do hard things to make a better future for myself. And Chris was a great example of that. Somebody who has a plan and a regimen that he follows, and there's always excuses to not do it. You know, I didn't sleep last night, which is literally. The guy will work all night long sometimes, or, working through injuries and fatigue. And yeah, there's times we have to take breaks, but whatever it is in life, whether it's working out, whether it's saving for the future, paying off a debt, loving your spouse and your kids, like there's always excuses for why we don't need to do that. Well, my wife's talked to me like this, or my kids are being disrespectful, or whatever. Like there's always excuses for not doing the difficult thing. And what Chris talked about is just making the hard decision. Like it doesn't matter about how I feel. I may not feel like showing love to my wife in the moment. I may not feel like working out. I may not feel like putting money in my 401k, but I'm choosing the right choice. I'm choosing to make the difficult decision because it's the right one, not because I feel like it.
You know, that to me, one thing that I've told people, because I've been pretty consistent in going to the gym and running for a long time now. I've told people that, you know, if I can go to the gym and make my day at the gym pretty hard and start my day that way, it makes, for whatever reason, psychologically for myself, it makes all the stress that comes upon me in my work day or my home life, for some reason, seem easier. And it's not, but it makes it feel a little bit easier. I've been working through something, you know, and going for a run for me is like, gives me a little bit of that time to where I could really think, and I'm also doing something hard at the same time. I feel like it's a powerful way to like self-heal in some ways.
Well, there's a Navy SEAL that talks about, he actually wrote a book called Make Your Bed. And it's the idea that no matter what happens during your day, he starts the day with making his bed. Chris talked about controlling the controllables, managing the input. So he might be wet, cold, tired, but he's going to make his bed perfectly every single day. So no matter what happens, he knows he gets to at least climb back into a nice warm bed at the end of the day. But I think starting the day with a sense of accomplishment. Yeah. Whether it's, you know, for me, when I was writing my book, it was writing in the morning. That was mentally, that was a bigger hurdle to overcome than working out.
Is that right?
So for me, that was the hardest thing. Mark Twain talked about the way he said it was eat the frog. So
eat the frog.
Eat the frog.
Okay.
And the idea, or have a frog for breakfast or something like that effect. The idea was starting the day by doing something less than desirable. And he said, you know, if you're having a really bad day, eat 2 frogs. It's the same idea that you just talked about. When you had that sense of accomplishment, you've conquered something. You've done a hard thing. You've said no to comfort and complacency. When you start your day, it's a reminder to yourself that you're the type of person who isn't easily going to succumb to complacency.
Sure. Now, Chris talked for a moment about just how diet seems to make a difference. And I know that you have a degree on how diet affects the brain, essentially, biochemistry background. What do you feel about that? Do you feel like diet has a big difference in who we are as people and being able to be disciplined in what we do? What are your thoughts?
I mean, yes, there's some definitely physical properties. Your body is made up of the things that you've been eating for the past couple of years, literally. Yeah. And the human body is amazingly resilient if we let it. And a lot of people think about, well, what I need to add to my diet and what do I need to put in? And a lot of times it's what you eliminate. It's allowing your body to do the things it was designed to do. That we disrupt it with processed foods and all this artificial garbage. Or like we talked about fructose the other day. There's nothing wrong with fructose, but you think about how our bodies were designed to get fructose through eating, like foraging for berries. Like you didn't sit there and drink half a gallon of fructose juice. You know, you had to work hard for it. You were ingesting with a lot of fiber. So we're delivering food in a way that our bodies were never intended. And it is disrupting some of the natural mechanisms. So, cutting out what is disrupting the natural order, natural mechanisms of your body is a huge step forward. The other part of it goes back to starting your day with a workout, or doing hard things, is the discipline. In some ways, working out can be the easy part, because, okay, you pin your ears back, you go to the gym, you work out hard for 45 minutes or an hour and a half, whatever. But then what are you doing for the other 23 hours of the day? And that's where, kind of like the budget, it's a commitment all day long. Like, you can't make one good decision in the morning to work out and then eat cheesecake the rest of the day. Just like, if you make a great decision, okay, I'm going to put $100 in my Roth IRA in the morning, and then you spend the rest of your day on Amazon buying junk that you're going to have to pay for the next 12 months. Like, that's not doing you any favors. It's that discipline. Like, there's always going to be a distraction allowing you to slip up. As somebody who not only gives their body the healthy foods that they need physically, I think it's the discipline of acting on a strategy, responding to a plan, so you're not reacting to events and circumstances around you.
Oh, that's super powerful. One of the big things that Chris talked about is focusing on who he wants to be and why.
I've got it written down too.
The same thing. Yeah. Have you thought that through quite a bit? Do you have like a personal statement? What do you do with that?
Greg, I wrestle with that all the time. Cause it's a little bit different. It changes. It changes. The things that I wanted to accomplish, even when I started this, have changed a lot. But why I wanted to accomplish, I don't know if they've changed, but I think they've become more, maybe not relevant, but I've got more clarity in that. This job has revealed a lot of my own weaknesses. My kids have revealed a lot of my weaknesses. And so when we branded our practice as Veritas, the idea is we would tell the truth and let the chips fall where they may. Like, our job is to tell people what they need to hear, not necessarily tell people what they need to know, not necessarily what they want to hear. And I can have a tendency to neglect tenderness and tact because I'm bringing the truth. And what I've realized, Greg, is I don't have to diminish the truth. Maybe in a difficult conversation, telling somebody hard things like, no, you're not ready to retire, or no, you have to start doing things differently. Or you know what, your goals, money is your goal right now. You have to have something bigger than that behind your goal. There has to be a why. But being able to tenderly but firmly tell the truth. Yeah. And that's who I'm trying to become. Somebody who is mentally tough, but still tender at the same time. Having the way I think of it is having a hard mind and a soft heart.
Right. Hard mind and a soft heart, huh? Yeah, that's really good.
And I think, really, circling back to money as a tool, who do I want to become? And I think that's a question more people need to ask, because if money does become the goal, now money might be part of the goal, and what money is easily measurable. So that is nice. And we tell people all the time, in fact, we even put the link in the show notes for our financial target software. Yep. I think it's really hard to hit a target that you can't see. And a lot of people don't have, as we talked about with Chris, clear objectives for their investing. They're just kind of collecting investments, but the financial goal is a means to an end. Money is not the ultimate goal. Having X amount of dollars in your investments or in your bank account is a step towards, or a means to an end. But your money is a tool to build a life of freedom and abundance and dignity and independence. Yeah. And that's going to look differently for you. It's going to look differently for me. It's going to look differently for Chris. But people need to, I think, ask that. Who is it that I'm trying? Where do I want to be? who do I want to be with? And who do I want to become?
Right. You know, one of the things that I've learned since working here is that I feel like, you know, society, social media, just who we are as people, usually puts ourselves in the center of our own little universe. And one thing that I've learned working here is that the choices that we make really do affect generations. Our purpose isn't necessarily, it has a lot to do with us. Absolutely. You know, but it also, the choices that we make right now and being disciplined and what we then pass on to our kids and grandkids and their grandkids pass on to them, really can last forever. And I feel like that's just, you know, it's something that I see you doing really well. And it's something that I see Chris doing really well as well, is really taking time with families to talk to your kids about making proper choices and decisions, and that it is important why we're doing the things that we're doing for right now, for us and for our future, but for theirs also.
No, it is. And I appreciate you saying that. And it, like Chris said, like, it's not always easy, and it's often not easy. He's got 6. I got to say, we got enough for a football team and a kicker on the bench. You know, I mean, with that many kids, and both of us have busy lives, you know, even outside of work. But it's taking those little moments. And I had a moment a couple weeks ago. I was actually getting ready. I was preparing for a sermon, and my son was like, "Hey, Dad, I'm going to shoot baskets for a little bit." And I was like, "I can't." I normally, this is on a Tuesday. It was normally on Monday nights. That's my first block of time to work on my Sunday morning message.
Okay.
And something had come up. I think we were at a soccer game or something like that. And I was like, "No, we can't. I can't do it. I've got to do this and that." And in my head, I'm thinking, yeah, I'm doing the Lord's work. I'm working on a sermon, you know, like it's very righteous and holy. And I'm walking into the room to work on that. And there's this voice that's like, "You idiot. Your 7-year-old
you
just said, Dad, I want to spend time with you." And I was like, "No, I got to do this other thing." And sorry, I'm getting emotional thinking about it. So I dropped what I was doing and went and just shot some baskets with him for a few minutes. And it was just like that reminder, like, part of it was a trust thing, because a little bit in that moment, and again, I'm trying to make this a sermon either, but in that moment, it was almost like, "God, I don't trust you that this is all going to work out unless I take control of this."
Right.
So I've got to carve it, like, and in that moment, I was like, "God, give me the words that I'm going to need for Sunday." And I was able to spend that time with my kid. But this is those little things, and it's the big things too, you know, carving out intentional time, like Chris was talking about, is being open for those moments to come up.
Absolutely.
It's not always going to be on the schedule. It's not always going to be on your itinerary or on your calendar, but those moments come up, like, man, you can make a lasting impact in the lives of your kids. And one other thing I was going to say, you mentioned, you know, it's not about yourself. I just think about the idea of living with a servant's mindset. And C.S. Lewis has one of my favorite definitions of humility. He says, true humility isn't thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. So it isn't diminishing your gifts and abilities. It's not diminishing my gifting and what God's put in me. And I think sometimes we do that. It's just that toxic humility, like, "Oh, like, you know, Greg, you did a great job on in that appointment or on that thing." You're like, "Oh, I messed up this thing." But like, it's so easy but it's toxic. It's not true humility.
Right.
It's recognizing the uniqueness that we have been given and exploiting it to the benefit of those around us, using it to serve others. And so it isn't thinking less of ourselves. It's just looking at what we have, and I think how we can serve people around us. I know Chris very much thinks that way. I know you think that way. And I think it's a really healthy way to live.
Yeah, I agree with you. Well, Chad, again, great job with that interview with Chris, and hopefully we get Chris back on one of these days. I just thought that was just an amazing interview, and thank you. Thanks for being somebody that inspires myself. I have some homework to do. I'm gonna turn off the notifications on the email on my cell phone, at least. I think that'll be a first start.
I had to turn it off on my computer too.
Is that right?
My cell phone
Okay.
and my computer, because the way with Outlook, like the Outlook does it, and then the computer sends me one. Like I'm getting 3 or 4 notifications. It's so hard to concentrate.
Right.
So we talk about what I do with email maybe another time.
Okay.
But no, that'd be a great first step.
Yeah.
And I think you'll feel some freedom right off the bat.
I appreciate that. Well, thanks, Chad.
Thanks, Greg.
Thanks for listening to the Blue Collar Millionaire Show. We hope this episode has been inspiring and beneficial to you. If you want help on your journey to financial freedom, reach out to us at veritasalaska.com. We'd love to sit down over a cup of coffee with you, either here in our office or virtually, and get to know you and your needs. And though this podcast is free of charge, we do ask that you please do us 2 quick favors. If you enjoyed the episode, give our pod a great rating on iTunes or whatever podcast platform you use, and also give us a follow on Instagram. We hope you have a wonderful day filled with gratitude and intentionality. God bless.